Every relationship has a purpose. If we are not living on purpose and in purpose with God, every other relationship will suffer. So every relationship you have and are going to have is linked back to your relationship with God. Because everything has a purpose, right? So there's a purpose in friendship, there's a purpose in familial relationship, there's a purpose in marriage. But if you are not living out your purpose that God has created for you, every relationship you can have in life is going to suffer. And I'm going to show you how. Because God had what we call an embryonic plan. Now, Psalms 113, 139, 13 to 18 shows you why we could never agree with abortion. Because this is how detailed God is with his plan for you. Listen to what it says. For you fashioned my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I thank you because I am awesomely made, wonderfully. Your works are wonders. I know this very well. My bones were not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes could see me as an embryo, but in your book, all my days were already written. My days had been shaped before any of them existed. Do you know how deep that is? This is poetry. This is David's psalm. These are songs. This is poetry. He says, your eyes could see me as an embryo, but in your book, all my days were already written. My days had been shaped before any of them existed. And then he goes on to say, God, how I prize your thoughts, how many of them there are. If I count them, they are more than the grains of sand. If I finish the count, I am still with you. So David is appreciating how detailed God's thoughts are. Now let's look, what is an embryo? Anybody can tell me what an embryo is before I put it on the screen? Maybe that's why it disappeared. Someone tell me what an embryo is. Because David is saying that God saw him as an embryo. An embryo is the early stage of development of a multicellular organism. In organisms that reproduce sexually, embryonic development is the part of the life cycle that begins just after the fertilization of the female egg cell by the main sperm cell. So life begins when the egg and the sperm come together and are fertilized. No scientists can't touch this. This is Bible, right? So David said God sees him as an embryo and knew his days and planned his life out as his eggs was fertilized. God knew that before. So God knew before David was the sperm of David's father and the egg of David's mom come together. God had already planned out his days. Now you can say, well, if the embryo and the sperm come together and fertilize, but it's aborted, then there wasn't a plan. No, the plan was before. And even if that life didn't happen, God still had that plan. Remember, we have free will. So you can abort the plan of God for your life. Just like a mother can abort the plan of God for her unborn child. Now, you want to see how much of a truth I'm talking? So I used a different version of the Bible to where it said embryo. So just in case anybody wanted to debate that, I went to the Strong's version, right? And it talks about, it says, your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed. And when I looked into the Hebrew for that word for embryo, it's golem. So it means a wrapped and unformed mass, i.e. as the embryo, a substance yet being imperfect. So an embryo or fetus. David is talking about an embryo in the Old Testament. And he's saying once again that God is so detailed, before the egg and the sperm even come together, before you become that little mass, God had your days planned out. And I'm taking time to go through this, to go through the detail, because God said to Jeremiah, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Know is in the Bible is a word for intimacy. So that means God was intimately acquainted with Jeremiah before he came into this world. God is intimately acquainted with the spirit man before the spirit man becomes life. Because guess what? The spirit world is the parent of the natural world. He said, let there be light, and there was light. The spirit, anything that happens in the natural happens in the spirit. So your life has been carefully planned out and crafted by God before your parents even met. This is how much detail God has, and how much love and how much care and how much detail and specificity he has concerning you. Every single person that ever existed, God is careful to watch who you are and what you're going to be, because it says what? In Jeremiah, for I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a hope, an expectation. So whatever God planned for your life, no matter what mess you've made of your life or what you do with your life, he still thinks those thoughts towards you, because he says, I know the thoughts, that's past, that I think, present. So wherever, this is the grace, this is the powerful grace of God. No matter how much a mess you made of your life, God still wants to give you the plan that he had. God wants what's best for you because he created you, right? So he wants to give you a hope and an expectation for your life based on what? Based on his plan. So you should know that whatever God thought about you in creation, so that's before you were formed, he still thinks about you in life. And that is the power of the grace of God, that I could make such a mess of my life, but God's grace is so powerful, he could make all those mistakes I made look like he planned it and still make something beautiful out of my life. Ain't no being like that in the world. I could completely destroy my life and God still thinks towards me positive, peaceful thoughts to make me whole and complete. Right? This is, so now when we're talking about our relationship with God, when you're not talking to God about the plan he has for you, you can only but make a mess of your life.